Hello everyone and welcome to my newest Fulbright travel vlog. So I've been in Szczecin for about a week now. Today's Sunday, so I kind of have some downtime to hang out just around my dorm. Things have been going well. I've got to see quite a few sites already. I'm pretty excited. There's still so much to see though. I'm going to be busy for the next couple months just making sure I really know the city well. I've been to the downtown area twice. The city center is what it's called, and it's like a big circle with a lot of shops and a lot of historical sites. And earlier in the week, my international student mentor, which I'm not a student here, but they know I'm from abroad, so they assigned someone to me to kind of help me settle in. We went downtown and got lunch, and then yesterday I met a professor from the University of Szczecin who took me downtown, and we walked around for probably 6 or 7 hours just checking out some of the historical sites, and we had lunch downtown. So I guess I'll go ahead and show you some of the sites. There's lots of parks. We ran into a ton of parks and lots of wide open spaces. So the first site we came across was a super large park that was lined with London plane trees. And at the south end of the park, there was a statue of Pope John Paul II, who is sort of a national icon in Poland due to his support and leadership during the Soviet times in Poland. At the north end of the park is a large bronze-casted monument of 3 eagles, which represent the 3 generations who helped rebuild Szczecin. The first generation being those who suffered during wartime and immediately following World War II. The second eagle representing the current generation, and the third eagle represents future generations who will take on the stewardship of the city. So the downtown area in Szczecin is called the city centrum. And immediately to the southeast is an area called Stare Miasto, which stands for Old Town. The Old Town is the historic region of the city, and perhaps the largest attraction here is the Pomeranian Duke's Castle, which was constructed in the 14th century and has been rebuilt almost, I think, 4 times now. The most recent time being during bombing raids, or after bombing raids during World War II. It's a really cool area. I've been there twice. I've yet to take an actual guided tour, but it has a really neat courtyard area with trees and a clock tower that has supposedly been running since its construction. It's one of the first sights you see when you enter in the city from the east, and later I'll show you a nice aerial view of the castle. Due to it being reconstructed several times, it doesn't really come across as being a castle. It looks more like a palace or a summer home. But it was the seat of power for the aristocracy in the early times, as well as during Swedish occupation. I really enjoyed my walk around Szczecin just because of how easy it is to actually get around the city. And it feels like there's history around every corner. In many of the public areas and parks, you can just sit on the bench and things will pop out at you that you hadn't noticed the first time around. Old statues and historic buildings. The varying architecture is also kind of interesting because you kind of see this dichotomy between Soviet-era style and earlier German architecture. So one interesting stop on our walk around the city was this insurance building right here, which, believe it or not, is the birthplace of Catherine the Great of Russia, Empress Catherine. She was born in Szczecin to Prussian nobility before marrying the king of Russia and then ascending to the throne herself. So Szczecin is also home to a cathedral, and it towers over the region. Unsurprisingly, this cathedral is relatively newly constructed, again due to bombings during World War II. On my first visit to the cathedral, I got to check out the interior of the cathedral just on the base level. But on my return, you can pay about $3 to go up to an observation deck. You take an elevator, and I forget how many meters high it is, but it's about 8 floors or 8 stops on the elevator. But as you look out over the Szczecin, this is eastwardly facing, and so you can actually see the Odra River off to the right, as well as the Pomeranian Duke's Castle, which is the white kind of square-shaped structure with the steeples on it. So one of the things that I really like about Szczecin is the ease of public transportation. It's so easy to get around the city. Uh, the public transportation, you buy a ticket for a certain allotted amount of time. The standard rates are like 15 to 30 minutes. I usually get the 15-minute one because it really doesn't take you much longer than that to get all the way across the city. You can take either a bus or a tram. I prefer the trams just because they don't stop, they don't take as long to stop, and you know exactly where they're going to stop every time. And there's a really nice maps when you get to the tram station. There's a bench, and they actually have a diagram of all the different stops. And there's definitely some like locuses of transportation within the city that kind of sort of become familiar very quickly because a lot of the trams and buses stop there. And so if you just memorize a couple of these stops, you can basically you kind of build a network in your head. You know, you don't necessarily remember how to get back directly to your dorm from any certain tram, but you know key locations throughout the city that you can get back to your residence from. Um, and mine is called Plac Kostuszka, and it's, you know, a couple blocks north of my dorm. And pretty much any tram that I've got on eventually stops at Plac Kostuszka. And so it's nice to kind of um, know that you can always get back to where you need to be relatively easily. So these are just some photos of the tram networks. All of them have crosswalks through them, and the side of the tram corresponds to the direction it's going. And so when you're approaching these stops, it's pretty easy to figure out what direction the tram's heading. There's also bike services spread out all through the city center, and if you set up an account online, the first 20 minutes of your ride is free, but it also refreshes. So if you can get to where you need to be in 20 minutes, that's great. But if you can get to another bike stop in 20 minutes, you can just then refresh your free time. And so it can be effectively free bike transportation throughout the city. So dorm life here is pretty much like the United States. I feel like a freshman again, but I have a single, which is really nice, and I didn't expect that, and it's worked out really good. Um, just to have, you know, your own personal space. Um, there's water, electricity, and internet. Uh, Food, there's no like real public school cafeterias, but the region I'm in, there's a mall nearby, and there's a ton of shops, and there's actually a grocery store on my block. And so food, either I go out and eat at a food truck, or I just get some groceries. The food is really cheap, and it's really good. There's a kielbasa stand that I go to quite a bit. It's like $2 or something for lunch. Also, there's this thing here. I don't know what it's called. I always just point at it at the truck and say two, please, or just hold up two because I don't speak Polish yet. Although I'm getting better, but it's toast and it's got mushrooms and melted cheese, and it's pressed kind of like a panini. And that's like my favorite breakfast thing to get, and I've gotten it a lot, and they kind of recognize me now. I'm getting better at ordering food. I've learned dzień dobry, which is good morning, dziękuję, which is thank you, do widzenia, which is goodbye, tak is yes, and then I just hold up my hands for like how many. Um, and it's actually, you can surprisingly get around pretty well. And most people do speak a little bit of English, so you can kind of bounce broken phrases back and forth. And people here are so nice. They're like, it's actually, I think sometimes I think I'm kind of entertaining for them because I'm so like, I don't know, I'm like a child. I'm so like bumbly and like goofy when I'm trying to order food, and they put up with me nice, so that's good. Other aspects of dorm life, it's pretty loud here. The students definitely like to party and go to the club. I guess going to the club is like the cool thing to do. Um, I'm in an international dorm, and so I've met a lot of people from. There's a lot of people from Turkey here studying through the Erasmus program. Greece, Spain. I met a girl from the Czech Republic, which was pretty cool. And so there's definitely a lot of like variety of the people you meet. I've yet to meet, besides the professor, I've yet to meet another American. And for the most part, people are surprised when I tell them I'm from the United States. This area is not very touristy, and so uh, I think I'm kind of a rarity, which is nice. I mean, people seem pretty friendly. I think in general, Polish people I think Americans have a decent reputation around here, which has worked out nice. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with my dorm situation. So my host institution here during my research is called the West Pomeranian University of Technology, or ZUT, for short, ZUT. And so this past week, I got to meet with my mentor, my host institution mentor, who is a researcher I contacted here prior to my proposal. The purpose was for him to sponsor me, basically agree to lend me equipment, help me with logistics and the feasibility of my project, basically just as a connection here in Poland, um, an academic connection. And we actually got to meet this past week, and he's very friendly. He is a hydrodynamics professor, so his field is my research relates to his field quite a bit, but as far as his direct field, it's out of my league. I'm not really exactly sure. Um, it sounds pretty complicated, and I know he does a lot of computer modeling and water flow modeling, which I'm not really a water guy. I'm more like an earth guy, um, whatever that means. But he's very nice. There's an entire cathedra, which, from what I understand, is basically the department. And I got to meet the department chief as well as my mentor. And there's a master's student here working on his PhD who's been very welcoming and friendly. Uh, he's kind of helped me get settled in and get my ID and email set up. Um, so the ZUT is one of two major universities here in Szczecin, the other one being the University of Szczecin. The campus is pretty spread out and more centered by department and field more than as one cohesive university. They actually just opened a new center for nanotechnology research, which looks extremely modern and almost robotic looking. It's kind of cool. But most of the facilities are relatively old. ZUT as an institution is young, but it was formed out of the formation of two much older universities. So uh, the history of the university is long lived, but the name is relatively new. Perhaps the greatest surprise upon meeting my mentor was that he informed me that I was going to be able to get my own office in the department, which is pictured here. Um, it's a really nice office. There's plenty of space. There's internet connection and a chair, and I was just so excited to get my own office and my own space. And this will give me a place to put, my samples and bring all my work stuff, and I'll know it'll be safe there. It's kind of weird because at the university they gave me my keys, but you don't actually take your keys home with you. There is a service desk at the entrance to every building, actually. And you drop your keys off there when you leave, and you have to sign in when you pick them up, which I guess is good because it makes sure that everything's accounted for. My faculty, another thing about the universities here is that the faculty is more responsible for your administration than the general university. So my faculty, which I met the faculty dean the same day I met my mentor, the faculty actually sets up your student account and your email, and also your account for paying for the bill. And so things are kind of focused more around the departments than they are around the university as a whole. So that about does it for my newest video. Sorry, I know it was a long one. I was advised by some family members to try and keep it under 10 minutes, but a lot has happened in the past week, so I wanted to make sure I covered it before I lost it. But my next video will be a little bit more exciting. I'm going to do a topic video over my actual research project. So expect some diagrams, expect me to pull out some crudely drawn MS Paint pictures. It should be fun. But it'll really answer the question of why I'm actually here. What am I doing at this university? Why am I in Poland? What's going on? So stay tuned for that one. It'll probably be a couple days before I finish it. This next week is my integration week with the university, so I'll be working on, or I won't be working, I'll be having fun, I'll be meeting people. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again to my friends and family for the support. I'll try and keep you guys updated as much as possible. So see you in the next video. Don't you worry. Don't you